Hello everybody, the Nameless Narcissist here once again. Simple man diagnosed with NPD, giving you the facts on narcissistic personality disorder and trying to tell you about the things that go on in my fucked up head. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, but keep in mind I'm no clinician, so I can only speak to my own experiences and the studies I read. So, the NPD-BPD relationship, the narcissist and the borderline. Oh my gosh, a love story as long as time itself. So, I don't have any insights on this that you can't just read about how that goes, right? So my plan for this video is to just tell you the story of how I personally experienced a relationship with a borderline. One of the worst and best relationships I've ever had. So this was back in, this was a few years back. I was in my like quasi-denial state at this time. Like I knew I had NPD, or at least I probably had NPD, but I really viewed it as like a defect, and I was trying to ignore it and hide it and just not think about it. So I was at this party, and I met this girl, and you know, she's hot as fuck, fun, whatever, and we end up talking to each other, and we immediately hit it off. Of course, we're both very high energy, very talkative, very much like up in each other's faces and getting all excited about shit. I'm drunk as piss. We exchanged, well, not numbers, I got her Snapchat, and like, for like days, it was like nothing but like paragraphs upon paragraphs, right? And I was infatuated. I was like, oh my god, this person is perfect, like, because I genuinely had don't get me wrong, at first this was a relationship more or less for self-esteem regulation. I didn't view it quite like that. It was because I view everything through that grandiose lens. I was like, oh, this is the perfect lover. Like, they're so attractive, you know, they'll support me, whatever. Like, I had a very idealized lens in this situation, right? So time wears on, and we keep talking, and eventually, like, we get involved with each other. Like, we're not official or anything, but it looks like it's heading that direction. And then the all familiar things start to happen, where I'm like, I'm getting bored, like what if my perfect person is out there, what if I'm too good for this girl, yada yada yada, like the same thing every time. And usually what happens is those thoughts kind of pile up, right? And eventually I just am like, alright, I'm done with this person, find some reason to break up with them, or more accurately, I get them to break up with me because I can't face the shame of breaking up with somebody. But I don't know if she could sense that I was like getting distance or something. She was diagnosed, by the way, I want to make that clear. I didn't tell her about my diagnosis though, but she wasn't in treatment at the time. But she must, I don't know if she sensed that I was pulling away, or the borderline fear of engulfment was kind of at hand here, because that's a big thing. Is that like not only do people with BPD fear abandonment, but also engulfment, and I am the kind of person that tends to engulf people, I suppose. But just out of nowhere one day, I forget what I even said. It was something like very benign on my part. I was a little bit passive aggressive, I guess, but she split and blocked me, and I was dumbfounded. I was like, this has literally never happened. Nobody leaves me. What the fuck do you mean? But also, since I didn't get fully through my phase of devaluation, I was like, oh my god, this perfect girl just got away from me, etc., etc. And I'm like distraught. And but then here's the thing, in the middle of my self-isolation, where I'm like, oh my god, I'm the worst person ever, like my vulnerable transition, she comes back. I'm like, whoa, excuse me? You came back. I was never going to reach out again. I was done, because nobody rejects me. But before I was able to get to the point of the further devaluation, where I was too good for her anyway, she came back again. So now, like, we're talking and everything's amazing again, but I'm also, at the same time, I'm like wary this time. I'm like, I know what happened last time, and I don't forget. And lo and behold, it happens again. My ego shot again, and this time it's purely about ego. Like, it wasn't even about I didn't even myself did not believe I was in love with her at this point. I was literally just like, this girl has been fucking with me, I need to fuck with her back. So this time, when she splits, I actually try to go back to her. I'm like, hey, can we, like, I know I said some things. I didn't fucking do anything. That's not true. I probably did shitty things. But like, I very much drew her back into the relationship so I could be like, I'm going to leave her first this time. And I do, if I'm being honest. I cut her off, and I was like, all right, fucking done. And then I did a stupid thing, and I didn't block her. And this is, I think, where like the big turn happened, because she sent me like this long paragraph that was like, oh, I know that you, it's like, I love you so much because like, I know you hide things from me, but like, I know you hide parts of yourself. I forget what she said. I know you hide parts of yourself to me, but like, I know you and I like love all of you and stuff like that. And I would, at that point is when like it really changed for me, where I was like, oh, maybe this is different. I wasn't even thinking about how the BPD stuff like played into it at this point. But I was like, wait, somebody accepts all of me? Excuse me? And this time I very cautiously get back into it. I'm fucking terrified. I'm like literally terrified this girl's going to break my heart at any damn second. And it turns into this really bad dynamic, because I have this I have like an innate sense of badness, right? I'm a little bit more conscious of that than some people with MPDR, but for me it's relatively conscious. And like, I put her on this pedestal, like this is like this perfect woman who is like accepting all of me, and even like the ugly parts of me that are gross, she is perfect. But on the other hand, people with borderline personality disorder tend to fall into this perspective where they are constantly being victimized. It's one of the only ways that they can, that's one of the various like few ways they can view relationships. Not that all people with BPD do, but it's one of the very common things. So not only am I putting her on this pedestal and viewing myself like trash, because that's just kind of how these things work for me, she is also viewing me as her persecutor. Unless she is being abandoned effectively, which is rough. So I was effectively, like, don't get me wrong, I did shitty things in that relationship to get her back. Like, I cannot tell you some of the wild things me and her fucking did. Like, she would message oh yeah, and during this entire thing, we had some common friends. We were trying to destroy each other. From the outside, it probably looked so bizarre, because all we talked about each other was shit. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we're back together, by the way. It must have looked insane from the outside. I swear to God, everybody's like, okay, they're getting back together, fucking hit the deck. Like, I don't want to see what happens. And then we both self-destruct whenever one of those things would end, obsessively try to get back with each other, start dating people just to make each other jealous. This was one of the worst things I did was, so I never let people touch my phone. I made this very clear to this girl, right? I'm like, I love my privacy. But I got involved with this one girl, like, it was not very serious. But during this period, the girl texted me. I was like, hey, do me a favor. And she was like, what? And I was like, take my phone and take a picture of yourself and tell her to stop messaging me. Oh, that was bad. I forgot about that. She didn't react very well to that, by the way. I think that's the time that she showed up at my house, actually. Not great. But this dynamic went on forever. I don't know. Like, it was, it's just like, it was, I couldn't let go of it. She had like all this power over me that I just couldn't understand. The only person in my life that ever has had that degree of sway over me for that long a period of time. Whew. And I adored her. I loved her. I have never been in a relationship like that before. I have never like been in a relationship where I was like so certain that somebody was like my soulmate. You know what I mean? And to me, I think it's just because there was so much chaos in it, and I never got a chance for my kind of defenses against commitment to kick in and like me to value her like that. And I developed such an ego complex about it. It's like that, like, even I'm not even sure if I did love her at this point, but like my ego is going to make me believe that I did, because she has destroyed it so many times and propped it back up so many times. And if you notice during this, while I'm saying all this, it really speaks to my pathology, because I have not related any of what she was feeling really, other than kind of what I know from psychology, because that is kind of the fact of my disorder, is that, especially back then when I wasn't fully aware of how it affected me, it was all very self-centered. I was completely only interested in how I was perceiving this, how it was affecting me. I have no idea what was going through her head. I really don't. I don't know if I don't even know if she meant half the stuff that she did. She probably did. I don't know if she's borderline. But but the things I'm valuing about her are this universal acceptance of me. This, it's not even about like a lot of, don't get me wrong, we had a lot of fun and we talked about a lot of stuff, I had a lot of stuff in common, it was cool. But what I missed about her and why I feel like I loved her wasn't anything to do with her. It was just that, oh, she accepted all of me. Nobody does that. And I was so drawn to it because that is what we were trying to do. We were trying to recreate the love that we didn't receive in childhood, the unconditional love that we always wish we would have got. It ended for good. When did it end for good? It ended for good a couple, relatively recently, actually. Not that recently, like, I don't know. I can't remember when exactly. But she basically, so I basically had one thing that would always make sure that ended forever. And that was if somebody cheated on me. Like, there's no coming back from that in my mind. And so what I did, so like, and yeah, and like I cheated on her because she pissed me off about something. Whatever, is what it is. And I felt like I was, because I could feel her I could feel her pulling away. And I know people will think, oh, you're getting in your head, blah, blah, because that's what everybody always tells me, is I was just getting in my head. But I knew she was pulling away because, I mean, I went through it enough times, and I already can kind of sense when people are doing that, and I think it's really accurate. It's probably not, it's probably just grandiosity. But, sorry, this is hard to talk about because there's a lot of shame involved with this, hence why I'm kind of like stammering so much. But like, I could feel her pulling away, and I was like, no, not this time, not again. I'm doing it. I have to be the one to do it again. It's similar to the beginning of it. And I cheated on her because she wasn't giving me the attention and validation I craved, and that was one of the only ways I knew how to get it. And I was like, well, I'm going to leave her first. And she made a big show, like, and when she found out, because I intentionally told people who I knew to tell her, she threw a fit, obviously. But like almost immediately, because this is what I thought was weird about it. Almost immediately after, she was like, "No, like," she was like, "You know, I understand you felt like abandoned, whatever, blah blah blah." And like she forgave me, and I was like, there's no way. I was like, this is weird, but like I was so ready to accept her, so I was like, oh right, this is my soulmate now. Like I was right back into that headspace. And then about a week later, she cheated on me. Quid pro quo, I suppose. And I was irate. I think that was that was probably the closest I ever got to domestic violence. I've never hit a woman before, but that was the closest. That was an intense screaming match. And so I eventually had her leave. This is awful, awful things. Had her leave, blocked her on everything, and have not talked to her since. I look back on that now and I'm like, fucking Christ, that was a mess. But in the moment, it felt like the only thing that mattered. I was like, this is the only thing that's ever mattered in my life. This is the only girl that will ever matter. Last I heard, she's somewhere out in California right now, so far away. But the thing about that relationship, though, which is the thing that is probably the most scary, because that relationship fucked me up. It really did. Only one other relationship that even had that close of an impact on me. But the most scary part about it is I look back on that, even right now, and I think, yeah, there's a lot of bad. But I also know, if she fucking showed up at my doorstep, I'd take her back. I know I shouldn't. I know I should not be willing to do that, but I know I would. I am powerless when it comes to her. I hope she doesn't see this. Jesus Christ, that'd be really bad. And I know that she would take me back if I went back to her. It's just kind of how it's always been. I won't, though. I mean, I'm not going to. I will never take the first step. And that was one of the big things about our relationship too back then, is that I wasn't, except for those few rare occasions, I was never the one that came back first. At least got that going for me. But anyways, take your fucking meds. You're lucky you guys didn't have to go through that hell, trust me. And here's a big thing. I know anybody here who has NPD or BPD knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about, because there's no way to describe that to you think like dating one of us is bad, imagine two of us. All right, have a good day.